So you expected sedate? You are so good to me, and you look so good. Did that all for me, didn't you? I just love it. God bless you for being here today. I spent 10 years on the radio. It has been 10 years since I've been in the air, and I still run into people in Louisville, Kentucky who come up and say, I still listen to you every day. I just say thank you. What else am I going to do? And often I'm asked if I miss being on the radio, and the truth is no, because this is so much more fun for me. When I began to go out and speak, I would meet people who had heard me on the air for years, and they felt like they knew me. And they had come up with their own idea of what I look like. This is not it. No, it was never what they expected. I got a letter in the mail from a group of prisoners once. Well, I was single then. I was glad for the correspondence. And they wrote me and they said, Dear Lizzie, the fellas in cell block D have taken a bet on what you look like. Now here's the power of radio. They said, we think you have olive skin, long, dark, straight hair, that you're about 5'2" and weigh 105 pounds. Are we close? So I wrote him and I said, oh, fellas, I can't believe how close you were. Then I sent him a picture of another woman. Oh, I gotta hope they're in for like 15 to life now, you know, just kind of. Well, I did find listeners might say anything. I had a lady come out to a car dealership just to meet me. You know how the radio personalities show up around town? She pulled up in her little Toyota, took one look at me, and said the first thing that popped into her mind. My word. You don't sound fat on the radio. Now, I'm never at a loss for words. Do you not already know that about me? But she got me that day. Well, now I've thought about this for 10 years. I mean, I just did not have, you know how this is, you want to have the right thing to say, and it just wasn't there. 10 years later, I finally figured out what I should have said. I should have said, ma'am, the Bible says that my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And he figured, why build a chapel when you could build a cathedral? You cathedrals, honey, you take that line and run with it, girlfriend. It's yours. Well, I am so encouraged by Scripture. It says when we get to heaven, we get a new body. Is anybody else excited about that besides me? Isn't that great? And I have checked. It's a size 6. You're saying, wait a minute, Liz, what translation says that? They all do. Because it says we go from the imperfect to the perfect, and a 6 is about perfect to me. Now, it also says in there, of course, in Mark, that the first shall be last, the last shall be first. So if you wear a 6 now, enjoy it while you got it, okay? Well, it is tricky. It is tricky when you're a big, beautiful woman in a narrow, nervous world. And it's gotten easier because they finally have stores for us. Now, this took decades. They've had stores for big men forever. What do they call them? Big and tall. In fact, that's the only name I've ever seen for the guys, big and tall. Big round letters, tall skinny letters, so the guys see that and say, yep, that's for me, and in they go. But they didn't have stores like that for us because they knew we would never walk into a place called Big Fat Girls. Who would shop there? You'd have to turn the bag inside out before you laughed. It'd be pitiful. So now they have the stores for us, but I love these names. Added Dimensions. There's one called Twice as Nice. But my favorite I found in Hickory, North Carolina, the Stout Hut. Can you imagine floating out when you might want to dress to impress? Have somebody say, cute, where'd you get that? The Stout Hut. So now they have the stores. I'm so grateful. They have the clothes that fit. But I think some designers still don't know what to do with the big, beautiful body. I tried on a big plaid suit. We're talking big plaid, big suit. Now, it was a perfect fit. It was my size and all of that. But I looked in the mirror, and I did not look so much dressed as I did upholstered. I mean, to add insult to injury, the designer had put big covered buttons down the front of it. All I needed was a skirt around my ankles. You could have put me in your living room. It was pitiful. The clerk sticks her head in. My, don't we look nice? Yeah, for a sofa. You know, it's not exactly. Well, our message today, one size fits all, and other fables. Because one size doesn't fit all. In fact, they don't even use that tag anymore. Now they say one size fits most. How encouraging. I can't wait to go out of the door with most of it covered. Well, there was a doctor who said some women need a number to validate their identity. We need a number. I'll bet if I asked you, and believe me, I would never ask you, I bet if I asked you to shout out a weight that you would love to weigh, you would all have a number for me like that. Probably that weight you weighed in 8th grade. Remember that? On that one good day, am I the only woman who looks back at those pictures with longing and says, and I thought I was fat then, you know. Just to be like that for a day would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, we need a number, and if we don't like whatever our number is, sometimes, especially in January, we're likely to start out on a diet. Maybe we do something really strong. We join Weight Watchers. Now, I'll not ask you if you've been to Weight Watchers. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but if you will just wink. Only I am going to see it, okay? So give me a second now. I'm going by sections. Give me a little wink if you've ever... Okay, I'm coming down here. Oh, no kidding. Okay. And, we have a double blinker over here on this side. If I blinked for every time I joined, it would be scary. You'd think there was something under my contact lenses. Now, for those of you who've never been to something like that, let me tell you how this works. Women line up by the dozens about to pay somebody $10. At least it used to be $10. What is it now? Y'all have given yourselves away here. You understand that? About to pay somebody $11 to get the worst news of the week. It's true. A whole week of carrot sticks, that scale better say the right thing. And we'll do anything to make sure it does. I stood behind a woman one Thursday night. She'd had a bad week, clearly, because she took off her earrings and her necklace, and you nod and you know this, and her watch, her wedding band. How much could that weigh? She took off all of her jewelry, dropped it in her pocket, and got on the scale. Now, some of you have never been to Weight Watchers, but you've certainly been on a diet. I think 95% of women have given it a shot at one time. So you're weighing at home. Now, when you weigh at home, what are the rules? When do you weigh? Oh, morning. Let's get more specific. First thing in the morning, right after, and right before coffee. You know what I'm talking about? There's that little window of opportunity. The thinnest moment of your day. And if that opportunity goes by, you wait till the next day, because you're not, you know, men will get on a scale with jeans on and sneakers. What are you wearing, girlfriend, on that scale? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, some of us get really fanatical and we wash our hair first to get out all those heavy products. You know, they must weigh something. But if you wash your hair, then what must you do? Oh, yes, blow it dry, get every last heavy drop out of there. Now we approach the scale, and a couple things have to happen here, too. First, you're going to move that pointer back ever so slightly. That's why I hate these digital scales. You just can't mess with them very much. But on the kind that swung, you figure I think it's overswung. All right. Now we get on, a couple more things are going to happen. We exhale all that heavy air. And then, every woman does this. When you get on a scale, you pull in your tummy. You know, with the theory, if you don't see it, it doesn't weigh anything. Or in my case, so I can see the numbers, you know, whatever. But we really do play a lot of games, we do. How much we often depend on that number to tell us if we're okay. I have wonderful news. I've gone through the entire scriptures, and we have no idea what Ruth weighed. We're not told what dress size Sarah wore. You don't look like you're as happy about that as I am. I'm really encouraged. The women of the Bible, my role models, their hearts are described, their actions are described, their bodies are not described. You know what matters to God? The size of your heart. Because that is where he lives. This, sisters, is a shell. We get to leave this behind and get a new one forever. That doesn't mean you don't take care of the one you got. But will you give yourself permission to be different? Because I'm looking along a row and no two of you look the same. I mean, not even close. Even sisters. Anybody here who's sisters today? Blood sisters. You know. Oh, the hand went back down. No, she said. Blood sisters. Hands up. Oh my word, that whole row, are you all related? That is so neat. Including the woman in blue? She said, I didn't think her hand went up. Well, y'all don't look the same. Did you have the same mother and the same father? Well, you know, you have to be careful about asking that question in this day and age. You do. You had the same mom and same dad. What does this mean? Now, that's kind of scary. You know, I asked a woman that once at a banquet I was speaking. Husband and wife sitting there, been married 50 years. They had 6 kids, and I said to her, just kidding, so do they all have the same father? And bless her heart, she didn't hear what I said and said, I have no idea. This poor man was under the table. But just for this point, see, the Lord was working with the same genetic pool with these 3 sisters, and they look related, but they don't look the same. He made you, and he said, ta-da, next. Because he made you, he didn't make you again. He did something different. He's called the creator for a reason. He's creative. And yet I meet women all the time who want to be somebody else. We're always comparing. Oh, I wish I looked like her. Days like this can be very dangerous, all these women together. 800 women who all look different, but we pick out one and say, boy, I wish I looked like that. I have to fight it myself. I'll see a little tiny thing and I think, if I could just have her body for a weekend. You know, just to shop in it. You know, just to try on a size 4 and say, too big. You know, just to know what that would be like. See, God knew exactly what he was doing when he made you. And if you don't do you, follow me on this, if you don't do you, who will? Not only that, it'll leave a hole in the universe. God will say, well, I made her. Where'd she go? He made lots of different kinds of flowers for the garden. He made lots of different kinds of women for his earth. And he did so well. Look how gorgeous you are. Trust me, I'm looking at you. So good. Every different size, shape. It was all a plan. I asked women, give me some words to describe your body. And they said all the ones you might think of, the blob, the lump. Flabby thighs. 200 women all said that same phrase, flabby thighs. So I think if all 200 women thought they had flabby thighs, it was part of the original design. We need to pray for those poor women whose thighs don't flab, you know? Bless their hearts. We use words about our bodies like hidden valleys. Not all of you get that, but some of you understand. They're just parts that haven't seen the light of day in a really long time. And wide load, and one of my favorites, gravity bitten. But we also said, I'm very happy to report, some very positive things about our bodies. Plush. Not a great word. If it's good enough for carpet, it's good enough for your body. Plush. Bountiful, dynamic, a wonderful piece of machinery, and my favorite, it washes up nicely and never shrinks. Oh, I love that positive attitude, I do. And you'll notice I have some fun with my body. And it's not put down humor, it's lift up humor. Because I want you to be able to say to yourself, if that size 24 Tinkerbell can have this much fun in a big body, can I work with what I've got? You bet. Having a sense of humor about it really helps. Ethel Barrymore says, you grow up the day you have your first real laugh at yourself. I can tell you the day I grew up, I was there. I was flying through the Indianapolis airport on a plane, and I'm sitting in the commuter waiting lounge, and you know how this is at the airport. It's very crowded. All the seats are hooked together and bolted to the floor. And all of those seats were filled. At the end of one row, there were 2 seats on one T-shaped base. Now, on one side was one of those little size 6s, little tiny thing. I thought, this is perfect. I can sit in this other seat, have room for both my hips. I love this. So I sat down, gave her greetings. Hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Then I bent over to gather my luggage around me. And while I was bent over, she stood up. Did you ever ride a seesaw as a child? You know if the other kid gets off too fast, something's going to happen to you. Well, I went flying through the air, tails over teacups. Now, this will bring the men from out behind the counter. It takes a lot to get them motivated, but a flying woman will do it. So these little men in their U.S. Air jackets came out to try and help me get up. And could not. And it's not because of my size. Come on, there were 3 of them. And it's not because I was pinned under the chair. It's because I was laughing so hard. I wonder if you've ever laughed on the floor on your face. It creates kind of a humping, wheezing effect. Which really concerned them. They said, ma'am, shall we call a doctor? That just made it worse. Finally, they got the chair up, they got me up, I sat down in the middle. And that was when I realized this waiting area was stone silent. More than 100 people were saying to themselves, that's the but they dare not laugh. So they're looking in the paper, they're looking around the room. They're looking anywhere but at me. I, on the other hand, I could not stop laughing. Hey, have you ever gotten really tickled in a quiet place? You know, during offering in church, it's very quiet, and you see something nobody else has seen, and you get tickled. And there's a dangerous thing with laughter on the inside and quiet on the outside. It will fight its way out of your body. It'll come out your ears, your nose. It's gonna come out. And I couldn't get my mind off of the visual. I could see myself how it must have looked. Big woman in a black coat flying through the air without a broom. What a picture. So I got out my compact to see if my lipstick had survived this unscheduled flight. And looking in the mirror, I could see behind me another big, beautiful woman who looked like she'd swallowed a cat. She was so ready to laugh. I sized her up as a sister immediately, leaned back, gave her the elbow, and said, "I'm just glad I didn't flip that little woman up in the air." So smart. You see why this was such a good day for me. If this had happened to me when I was 20 years old, I would have been so mortified. I couldn't have even told my best friend. But now that I'm over 40, even flying through the air, I thought, hey, this will make a great story. See, one of the things about maturing, and I love being mature. Don't you love being mature? I keep saying that to myself every day. I love midlife. I love midlife. I hate it. No, I don't. I love it. I had a friend who sent me a list of the advantages of being a woman over 40. And I want you to be encouraged. You're less apt to suffer mental instability. Of course, for some of you, how would we tell? But you're more immune to colds after 40. Isn't that great? And you're less likely to spend time in a penitentiary. Hey! I'm so excited. You know, I really might as well celebrate being over 40 because I am. Do you follow this? It's sort of like when you accept that this is the body you're given, you better accept this is the age you are too. There's some things we can't change. And if we can't change them, we might as well embrace them and celebrate them. I've only found a couple of challenges about the over 40 thing. I have taken delivery on my first bifocals. It was a hard day at the doctor's office. She patted my knee and said, "It's time." And I said, "I look like my mother." She said, "No, you won't. We'll have the kind without the line. Nobody will be able to tell." Yes, they can, because I'm going like this all the time. People across the room, they don't know what's going on. They start nodding back at me. But I had to get them, girls. I had to get them because I could not read anymore. The type keeps getting smaller and smaller. And I keep trying to get it farther and farther away. Isn't it pitiful? Not if you're there. I know you understand. They have a name for this need to move stuff farther away. It's called presbyopia, which I think sounds like the fear of being a Presbyterian. Just kidding. So I had to do it. The other thing that started happening, I hate to even bring this up because you'll look. My hair has started thinning. I've decided I'm going to walk like this all the time because it stretches out my 3 chins and then you can't see up top. I know it happens to the fellas. I just didn't know for a lot of us, some of our hair just starts thinning out. So I borrowed a page from the guy's book on this one. I keep moving my part over farther and farther. Well, hey, at least I don't have one big swirl going on there. They get out of the shower with one 8-foot hair. I mean... Well, Brigitte Bardot said it's sad to grow older, but nice to ripen. Ah, so we need to think of ourselves as a big bowl of fruit here. And we're not rotting, we're ripening. And we're growing sweeter and more delicious. I love being a pear. Well, that's my shape, my God-given shape. But pears are great. They take forever to ripen. You probably bought a pear 2 weeks ago. You're still not sure it's safe to eat. And they grow golden, softer, and more delicious. We need to celebrate. Celebrate whatever size God gave you. Celebrate whatever hair he did or didn't give to you, and celebrate. Josh McDowell, one of my favorite Christian writers, says, if you can think of anyone you'd rather be than yourself, you probably have a self-image problem. Well, that would be all of us in this room, because every once in a while, we look at a woman and say, I would just love that hair, that thick hair. Some of you guys have incredible hair, and I think, oh, hair covetousness kicks in. And I think, what would it be like to run your hands through and have it take a while? You know? I see women who wear, barrettes and cute things, and I'm thinking, no, I'd clip it in. What would that be like? It'd be wonderful. Well, I think this comparison thing goes way back. I think many of us grew up the first Saturday night in September, parked there in front of the TV, watching who go across the screen. There she is. And there she was. 50 Barbie dolls going across the screen. And my sisters and I would look at each other and we get so discouraged. I want you to be encouraged. I got the list for 1 year in particular of all the Miss Americas, all their vital statistics, averaged them up, took them up with the quintessential American beauty. I guarantee you, you will fit this list. I'm going to read them off. When one fits you, lift your hand. That's it. You're a Miss America contestant. You only have to have one. So trust me, you're going to make the list. Are you ready? Average Miss America is 23. We'll move right along. All the Miss Americas, because they have to be, are single, never married. Single, never married. We're so glad you're here today. We are. These kind of events are kind of tough to come to. I didn't marry till I was 32, and which was not intentional. I mean, I didn't career track that, I kind of woke up on my 30th birthday and said, oh, I forgot to get married. And so I know for a fact, you get over 30, it's tricky, and it's especially hard in the church because people say stuff. Now, if you've been married and you're widowed or divorced, they just say, oh. But if you've never been married, they say, oh. And the farther south you go, the worse it gets. Oh! Now, husband, now, children, way. How we do go on, and my friends in the church really made it the hardest because they kept saying, Liz, relax. God has a man for you. To which I always said, hey, he knows my address. What's the holdup? Let's go. So I'm so grateful. These kind of events, all women, it can be hard because the speaker's talking about husbands and children and husbands and children. Not this time together. We're just talking about you. I'm so glad you're here. You single, beautiful, never married women. It was hard. I always felt like I had a big stamp on my head. Reject. Nope. To those sisters I say, it's not what it says. It says married. to God. Isaiah 54:5 was my verse. It says, for your husband is your maker, whose name is the Lord of hosts. I was already married to the best groom out there. And people, because I was over 30, would assume I was married, and they'd say, what does your husband do? I'd say, oh, he rules the universe. Most of the Miss Americas have brown hair. Hands, please, if you have brown hair. Some of you are not so sure. Does she mean this week? Oh, we're doing an honesty test right now. How many of you have no idea what your natural hair color is? Come on. Brown eyes. That's an easy one. Got brown eyes? Lots of brown eye beauties here. Average height, 5'6". Not as tall as I thought. All right, girlfriend, you're in. Go, go, go. The next one's harder. Average Miss America weighs 114 pounds. Put it down. There's always one. And bless you, precious. But you know, not many other hands went up. So I will count this if you ever weighed 114. Even if you shot past it in 5th grade, it works for me. Isn't that a wild thought? There actually was a day when, even if it was for an hour, you went past 114. Isn't that great? Average Miss America has a 24-inch waist. Don't raise your hand on this one. Okay. Oh, this is unnatural. It's unnatural. My daughter Lillian, what a doll baby she is. When she was 2, I wanted to see what the waist of a toddler was, so I took a little tape. First of all, it's hard to find the waist of a toddler. Do you know it's kind of... Found her waist, average little 2-year-old, 17.5 inches. Now, who had a 17.5-inch waist? Do you remember? Miss Scarlett. That's right. Until after the baby. Then she went all the way up to 20 inches, remember? And she was despondent and threw Rhett out of her life. We're talking Clark Gable here, okay? So I think it's unnatural to want the waist of a toddler, so let's just ignore that one completely. 7.5 shoe, I'll take before baby. You know, is fine with me, because they told me about stretch marks, they did not tell me about foot growth. Can you identify with that? Never smoked a cigarette in your life, never lifted one to your lips. Brownie points for you, and don't look around, not many hands. You're from a small town, a rural area. Me too. Your talent is singing. Glee club, church choir, and the shower all count. That's good. I had a lady in Portland, Oregon, when I said your talent is singing. She leaped up and ran down the front, grabbed the microphone to prove to us her talent was singing. And it wasn't. So I'll take your word for it, okay? Average Miss America exercises 14 hours a week. Woo. Sometimes I'll get a hand, lady who does religiously 2 hours a day. It's impressive, it's incredible, it's scary. I do exercise, by the way. People look at me and say, well, that's her whole deal. I love to exercise. I love jogging. My memory, I do. Jumping to conclusions, climbing the walls. And my favorite exercise, throwing my weight around. It works for me. Now, we have one left. Is there anybody that we didn't hit one way or the other? You didn't get your hand up on a single thing. Is there any beautiful woman here? Because the last thing is all 50 of them have pierced ears, so if we have to, we'll take you out in the lobby and poke a hole in your ear. Now, here's the story. These 50 incredibly beautiful young women, when asked to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 for physical beauty, only gave themselves an 8.62 on average, which meant some would have said 5. If all of that gets you an 8.62, what are we? Do you see how scary it would be if this was the only measure we had to work with? Oh, I'm so glad this list is not in the Bible. You know what is in there? Psalm 149:4. He will beautify the afflicted ones with salvation. You know what makes you gorgeous to God? Because you are covered in the blood of his Son. When he looks down and he sees that, he says, wow, she was gorgeous when I made her, but look now, she is clean, white as snow. Some of you may know my story and some of you may not. I'll give it to you in a thumbnail sketch. I did everything between the ages of 17 and 27 that we pray our daughters never do. Whatever your prayer list is, it's what I did. Now, I grew up in a nice little home, in a nice little town, but I had a rebellious heart. Truth of the matter is, I still do. It's been made new, but I fight it. When I hit 17 and had to make the tough decisions that our kids face now at 13, 12, 11, I made the wrong choices. One right after another. What happens when you make one wrong choice is it makes it so much easier to make the next wrong choice. I also surrounded myself with the wrong kind of friends. I traveled in a fast crowd. In many ways, I care more about who my children hang with than anything, because I know it will determine the choices they make. And so made all the wrong ones. And because I did grow up as a big, beautiful girl, I never felt pretty. I never felt valuable. I never felt loved. I never felt worthy. And so when those decisions came, if it meant I would be accepted, if I would be part of the crowd that I was hanging with, I said yes. Yes to drugs. Yes to pot, and yes to coke, and yes to booze, and yes to men. It got so bad, by 1980, I was working in Detroit, Michigan with Howard Stern. Now, you probably all know who Howard Stern is. It's kind of hard not to know Howard. He's on late night TV with the wild hair and the funny glasses. And here's what you got to understand. Howard and I worked together in Detroit. He did mornings, I did afternoons. When I got off the air, Howard said, Liz, you have got to clean up your act. Does this tell you where my act was? Was in trouble. Was in trouble. God did not tell me to clean up my act. God moved me to Louisville, Kentucky in a most amazing way. My station in Detroit went country overnight. I was the rock and roll mama of the Motor City, playing country tunes. I was in trouble. I didn't know my dollies from my twitties. I knew nothing. I took the first rock job I could get. It just so happened to be in Louisville, Kentucky. Took the job sight unseen. I'd never seen this incredible city. I got here in 1981. I was a mess. I didn't know I was pretty, valuable, worthy, or loved. I knew nothing, except that I was miserable. Some of us have to go all the way down to the bottom of the pit before we can look up, and I was down in that pit. Lord said, I better send somebody to tell her to look up. And over my pit of despair, two dear people came to work with me at Wacky Radio in Louisville. And they looked down and said, here's a project. Will you look at this woman's lifestyle? Will you listen to her mouth? She is ready to hear some good news. Now, they didn't take me to church. You wouldn't have either. No, you really wouldn't have, no. Here's our friend Liz. Please ignore her glazed expression. You know, it was a hard night. They just loved me. They invited me into their hearts. They invited me into their home. They had me over for Thanksgiving dinner, me, the party queen. I took a hostess gift. That's what Mother taught me you're supposed to do. I took my best bag of pot. You know, it's what my circle did. And it wasn't that homegrown Kentucky stuff. It was Hawaiian bunga junga weed. It was serious. And I thought they'd be impressed. And I got it out and rolled a joint for them and offered it to them. And they said, Liz, we'll pass. We've found something better. I said, ooh, baby. I mean, I'm the party girl, something better. Do you smoke it, toke it, drink it, shoot it? What do you do to it? They said, you just believe it. Oh, man, is this that God stuff again? They said, yeah, it's kind of that God stuff again. And so I listened, and I let them hug me. Oh, man. If we only understood the power in a hug. Wow. I finally invited myself to their church. I wanted to see if there was anybody else as weird as these two. And there were whole pews full of them. These friendly, loving, non-judgmental people. I sat there in the pew thinking, if they only knew what kind of woman I am, they wouldn't even want to sit near me. The minister got up. Our passage today is Ephesians 5. Wives, submit to your husbands. Good teaching, or wouldn't be in there. But here I sat, women's liberty, single woman, wives, submit to your husbands, was not the message my friends were praying for that day. You know what I'm saying? You bring a friend to church, you want something loving, grace-filled, evangelistic. You weren't praying for wives, submit to their husbands as the lead text. But if you know that teaching, you know a couple of verses later it says an incredible thing. And husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, being willing to die for her. I turned to my friend and I said, if I ever met a guy willing to die for me, I would marry him in a heartbeat. She said, Lizzie, a man has already died for you. I had never heard that. I mean, I knew like the basics of Easter and Christmas, but nobody had ever said that Jesus Christ died for me. For you, would have died for only you. Well, I was blown away. I mean, I knew that this is what I'd looked for 27 years, but I didn't know what you did about it, so I said, are we going to brunch? Because they had promised me, they'd used the best evangelistic tool known to mankind, food. They said, if you will come to church with us, we'll take you to brunch. And money was tight. I was grateful for that opportunity. We went to brunch. They said, do you want to come back next week? I said, yes, I do. I want to see if this guy is always that good or if I caught him on a good day. So I came back and heard another message and another message. I came 6 weeks. 3 weeks I heard about how to be a good spouse, and I was single. 3 weeks about how to be a good mother, and I didn't have children. Don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. You see, his word is so powerful. Sometimes you want to find that perfect verse for somebody, but his word is so powerful, you just open it up and it will lead you to the author and perfecter of your faith. By the 7th week, I was singing in the choir. Well, I love to sing, and they had a robe that fit. And it was like a perfect fit. You know, zipped it right up, wouldn't have worn it home, but it was a rental. And I'm up here in the choir, and we get to the last song. And I always thought it was interesting. The last song was always one everybody seemed to know, and that was good because they didn't need their hymnals. They needed to be putting on their coat, or that's the song where you get the kids to pick their crayons up, or the Where We Going to Brunch song. You know, the last song. But I'm in the choir. I can't do any of that, so I just have to sing. I have decided to follow Jesus. And I decided. And after 7 weeks there, I knew what to do. I came out of the choir loft, the whole alto section went, we thought she was one of us. Well, you know those altos. I shared my hymnal with her. What a happy day that was. I went down front. And I said something we say. In our particular church, I believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God, and I accept him as my Lord and my Savior. And then we just go ahead and get people wet right away, lest they change their mind. Now, we come today from all different kinds of denominations and walks of life, so everybody's baptism experience is different. Yours might have been a little sprinkle or a little, but in our church, we think baptizo in the Greek means hold them down until they bubble. So we go ahead and get you wet all over, and you need a baptismal robe, and honey, they are one size fits all. And it did not fit my all. So it zips up the back, theoretically, so we got big pins from the nursery and marched up the back, and I came. Down in the water I went, up to newness of life I came, February 21st, 1982. What a happy day. I think the Lord knows exactly what our hearts need to hear. When I came out of that water, he sang to my heart, "You are so beautiful to me." Sings it to you too. "You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I died for. I'm everything you need. You are so beautiful to me." I hope you believe that. Because God looks at you and he says, wow. He doesn't see the flab and the thighs and the chins and the hair and the wrinkles, and he sees a heart that is so beautiful to him. I want to close with a poem that's on the back of the book. One size fits all is just a fable. There's no truth to it at all. Your heart knows it, your eyes see it in the mirror in the wall. Look around you, friends and strangers come in every shape and size, each one special, each one worthy in their loving maker's eyes. Fight the urge to start a diet, starving body, heart, and soul. Seek instead a healthy balance, self-acceptance as your goal. Try some movement, add some color, paint your canvas bold and bright. Make the most of this, your body. Bet you'll find it fits just right. I love you with all of my heart. Thank you. God bless you.